Agenda item 5I, planning application for refusal, R0928A, the Parade Margate, F/TH/14/0219. And the first speaker is Mr. Robin Haddon, and we will be speaking in support of the application. Mr. Haddon, please, you've got 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I feel strongly that the Planning Department's list of objections are unjustified and in surprising contrast to the officer's positive opinion during my discussions with the officer when he attended a site meeting. I have, however, put my reasons to the committee in detail already, emails sent earlier this week. I'd like to address the conservation objection here this evening. Inappropriate setting for residential use. Number 19, our immediate neighbours. Number 2, Duke Street in the centre of the Old Town. The Grade 2 Blue House pub in New Cross Street. Previous commercial ground floor and now 100% residential. And now, I believe, number 166 to 168 High Street has also been approved on the ground floor, previous residential. Surely such a sweeping statement from conservation cannot hold water without very detailed specifics and sound reasoning. Loss of commercial space. This is incorrectly classified. There is no loss of commercial space as there is no current commercial activity in this space and has not been for the past 14 plus years. Tens of other commercial shops that are actively marketing themselves as available remain empty. Tens of new ones planned within the new Dreamland complex, and more still within the indoor market in Fort Road alongside the parade. Is this a real loss? An art gallery or such. This has attempted to be an art gallery. The previous owners realized it was not viable for such a function, and they resorted to use the residential as a B&B to try and make some money in order to maintain the Grade 2 building. A space 100 times more suited to a gallery went AWOL within 3 years, and the ground floor commercial space in Duke Street remains a sorry sight. Outside the square gallery leaves an untidy, empty art space week after week. Blanking out of windows. We could cardboard up the windows like many others in the area, but no, we have a privacy foam to secure the single glazing as people lean against it, and as Grade 2 we can't have double glazing. We also do that to lessen the attractiveness for people trying to break in. I refer to problems in Broadstairs recently. In any case, most commercial entities have blinds, foam, signs and such like. Please refer to my images of yesterday's email. Taking advantage of a council grant. Just to give a little bit of my background, at great personal expense I became a founding patron of the Turner Gallery as I wanted to see positive regeneration in Margate. I've also had personal dialogues with Tracy Ammon about a bedraggled pink sign outside Droit House that looked like a half-made bed of dangling wires and cables for months on end. Fortunately, this was rectified, and she also agreed that green would be better than pink for viewing in an outside space, and we all enjoy the green reflection of I Continue to Love You. I also spoke to the managing director of Primark a couple of years back to encourage the painting of the building, which has now been done. And also the managing director of the dentists in number 4 High Street, their head office, up north. They agreed to remove the graffiti on their roller blind, as this could encourage this groundle of graffiti in the immediate area that the council spends thousands of pounds to contain. I'm pleased to say they have a nice shiny blue roller blind as of this Monday past.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Now call on Councillor Johnson, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you. I'm here to support the applicant for this. I obviously know Mr. Haddon as someone who is very active in the community and has done all the things that he's mentioned that he has done. He really is someone we welcomed when they moved, he and his partner moved to the town. It's true, it says on page 125, the loss of the current use. Well, the current use is nothing. It's a wasted space. I certainly remember Gentlemen's Outfitters, and obviously that business didn't thrive. Lovely stuff, but didn't thrive. Eventually closed. I was involved when some of the funding came to renovate the building, particularly the building in its listed state, and again, an attempt at a gallery was opened, and it's absolutely true that people tried to do a bed and breakfast to try and survive there, and you know, it didn't work at that time. I have had people talk to me about looking for gallery space, and one woman in particular, I'm sorry, but we did go and look in the windows, and she said there was not enough space for her to have a gallery there and to have it as her workshop. I believe that this family have done the right thing. They are putting in this planning application. Having a ground floor domestic use would be just wonderful for that property. I know when my children were little, we had an upstairs maisonette, and it was a nightmare getting pushchairs in and out, and if you're disabled, you definitely need ground floor use. I fully support this application, and I do hope that members will approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. This application is a planning application for the change of use of the ground floor retail use, planning use, to living accommodation. So the property is a prominently located property. It's a listed building within Margate. The property is here, edge red, and it's overlooking the piazza. Excuse me. This is the property at the moment. It has residential above, and the ground floor is, the planning use of the ground floor is retail. It has a retail shop front as well. Again, very prominent location within Margate itself. This is just a closer photograph showing that there are commercial properties immediately adjacent to the property and further down the road in this location. The adjacent property is a residential property. I believe it was built as a residential property. The prominence of the building is of particular importance. Also, the fact that it's a listed building is particularly important. The law requires us to protect listed buildings, but also to preserve or enhance conservation areas. So we do have a legal requirement to consider applications where there's change to these buildings or the area very carefully. We have that legal requirement. There are no physical alterations proposed to the building, so that's not an issue. The policy which looks at the regeneration of the Old Town, EC10, does allow a range of appropriate uses within the Old Town. It specifically refers actually to live-work units and living above the shop, so it recognises that there is a benefit in keeping those ground floor uses, but it does allow residential uses within the area. So the issue here is the impact on the character of the listed building and on the character of the conservation area. The view of English heritage also is that where you're looking at changes of use, you must look beyond the changes to the building that are immediately apparent. So you look at the use and the character of that use, the functioning, what that means in its totality, so in terms of the listed building, but also in this case the impact on the conservation area. Again, as I say, it's a very prominent location within that area. In the view of officers, it's not been demonstrated that the use would be a positive one. In fact, the view of officers is that it would be a harmful change to the character of the building and to the conservation area. This commercial frontage is considered to be particularly important within the conservation area. The loss of activity associated with the change of use, its planning use is a retail. It might not currently be used as retail, but it could be used as retail. If the change of use is granted, then that takes that option away. And as we know, there are many premises within the Old Town that have recently been changed to retail, so there is a move towards additional retail within the Old Town. When considering the application, we're looking, as I say, the officer view is that the harm is caused to both the building and the conservation area. The National Planning Policy Framework says in those cases where there's some harm caused to the conservation area, then we should look at whether there's any public benefit that might outweigh that harm. And as I say, in this case, the officer view is there isn't any public benefit because the proposal would harm the conservation area, the activity would be very different. The use of the property for residential would also change the character and appearance of the building, in that curtains would be put up inside the windows potentially, also blinds and furniture, which would change the whole character of the building. So, taking all those factors into consideration, the recommendation is that the application is unacceptable, and recommendation is for refusal.
Thank you very much. I move the officer's recommendation for refusal. May I have a...
Thank you, Councillor Hayden. Yes, sir.
Yes, Alan.
Thank you, Chair. I understand what Simon Thomas has told us, and it all makes sense, I suppose, from a planning perspective. However, at the moment, it's clearly been a business which has been closed for a very long time. It's not worked as a business for a very long time, which is why it's in the state it's in now. We've got an applicant that wants to make good use of that, and I don't believe for a moment that by putting curtains, blinds, whatever the case may be, whatever takes the applicant's fancy in the ground floor window would actually be harmful to any passers-by or anything like that. You've made a comment with regards to how it won't enhance the area, but it will neither do it any harm. So I don't see any problem with this whatsoever, and I will support it.
Councillor Tomlinson, please.
Thank you. I fully support approval for this. I supported the gate. I still support the gate. And I believe that, and I still say that conservation is good, excellent, and we must look after our properties, but we must also look outside of the box. And I'm sorry, if you look at that property there, and then I've eaten in Angela's Cafe, and very nice lady, but look at the property there as well, and the windows, and the Formica tables inside, and the illuminated sign. And if you walk around the old town and see some of the conservation area properties, I think this is the right thing for this property. It's been left, as you say, for so many years now. The Parade Outfitters, I used to go in there, and as Councillor Johnson says, I'm down there every day as well as she is. We often see each other, don't we, Iris? But it is the conservation. We still have to look at every application within its own right, whether it's in the conservation area or not. And I fully support approval for this.
Thank you, Chair. Could I just clarify, this is obviously at the moment two completely separate but linked properties. So the door to the left goes to the upstairs, and the door...
Non-availability of any use at all seems to me a condemnation of the building itself. I fully support anything going forward now within terms of conservation, appearance, for its future use. I think 14 years is long enough to decide whether or not it's got a future, even allowing for the Turner Centre, the regeneration of the town centre. Enough's enough. Go ahead and make something of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. There's a photograph from page 131 of our documents, which looks like there are sort of internal grills on the window, but the photograph up there looks like is it obscured glass or is it a film? I presume the one in the documents was what we had when we discussed the door, the gate on the door, is that right? So that's presumably is the more recent picture. I think in the photograph with those grills it looks far worse than it does up.
I understand your question is when the photographs were taken, both in the report and on the presentation. The ones in the report are older. The current position is as per the presentation.
Mr. Haddon said he'd put something up to stop people leaning against the window, and because it's single glazed, and if people push too hard, etc., etc. But I think that looks a great deal better than having these internal metal grills.
I think he meant he put an internal laminate on, which is used to strengthen windows, and actually the army does it on the windows to make them bomb-proof. Actually, that is a fact.
Don't take any chances.
Right.
Thanet, please.
To come back to the point that Councillor King made regarding the commercial use of a property, can the officer comment on that, on the fact that should we grant permission to have it changed to residential, that would preclude its future use as commercial later?
Well, I mean, I can only say in planning terms, I mean, if we grant planning permission for residential use and that is commenced, then we need planning permission to go back to retail. So that would be the effect of the permission.
I just find it a little bit confusing tonight, because if we look further back, I think, to 166 and 168 High Street, Margate, there's a noble building with a shop front, a very large one, and that's we've decided, I think, that it can be converted back into full commercial use. And now we have a case here where this was basically a shop 14 years ago when it last had such a use. And I think there comes a time when you have to give up a lost cause to it, and to expect that to suddenly regenerate into a flourishing shop. I think you're living in fairyland, actually. So who's next, please? Yes, Councillor Bing.
I'd like to say I agree with you, Chair. Anyway, most shops were only somebody's front room originally that they opened up as a shop, and they've gone backwards and forwards between being residential ever since. I must admit that actually I'd quite like to see the upper floors continue down to the lower floor and do the job properly, because there are certainly residential units at the other end of this road, and they mix quite happily, and I think that is the essence of conservation, that you have something that is old but mixes well, and as Councillor Hart has said, this could be moved back any time if somebody did want to use it as a shop, though I suspect that if it were converted and the ground floor were actually restored to the original, then I doubt if anybody would want to convert it back to a shop. But I fully support the motion to allow this to be a residence.
I think this has gone on long enough. I'm going to put it to the vote, and it has been moved for refusal. Those in favour, please. Those against? So that has been lost now, so we've got to get find another motion, haven't we?
Could I move approval, please, Chair?
Yes. Okay, seconded. Okay. Motion is now for approval. Can I have a vote, please? Yes. Those against? Abstentions, please. Thank you. That's carried.